Welcome everyone to Wrasslin Raw!
You're listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when the new generation took over the WWF. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the national anthem. Singing his rendition, up-and-coming international singing sensation, Wrasslin Raw's own Joe Gimateo.
The crowd goes wild.
I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett, and we're going to examine WWE history one pay-per-view at a time. But first, Ryan, do you have a little special something for us?
Yeah, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to New Hampshire. Thanks for the new download. We appreciate it, so thanks.
Give us that 5-star review if you like what you hear.
There can't be many other better things to do in New Hampshire, so the least you could do is hit us with the review, I think, right?
It will be one of the most difficult decisions they've made in their entire career.
Well, as you heard me say earlier, this is going to be a special pay-per-view edition of Wrasslin Raw. And just to bring our new listeners up to speed, our special pay-per-view rules are as follows. There are not going to be any Jobber of the Week segments here because there are no jobbers. And we tend to go a little more quickly through the matches because there's usually a lot more to talk about here, just time-wise at the very least. And at the end of each match, we each give our own personal star ratings. Then Joe hits us with what Dave Meltzer thought of these matches. That's straight from the Wrestling Observer newsletter. So besides that, there will be no highlights and lowlights, but just a general opinion of the pay-per-view overall at the end. And that's it. So, that being said, in this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about In Your House 4, The Great White North. In Your House 4 aired on October 22nd, 1995, and was recorded at the Winnipeg Arena in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Features Vince McMahon, Jerry the King Lawler, Jim Ross, and at one point, Bret Hart on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Yes, sir.
All right, then, let's get into it. To start us off tonight, ladies and gentlemen, in this dead-ass, quiet-as-hell crowd, please put your hands together for this young up-and-coming singing sensation, Canada's own Joanie Wilson. She sings "O Canada" for us. I have to admit, at this point, I had completely forgot this was in Canada, so once she started singing "O Canada," I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Well, you know what reminded me of it? It was during the middle of "O Canada," they were scanning the crowd, and they showed this emotionless guy decked out for the occasion in a complete Canadian tuxedo, denim from head to toe. Did you guys see him?
Well, Denim Dan, I think I did. Yep.
Denim Dan. Is this the first event that we've had in Canada since we started this January 93? I think this might be.
I think so.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Disclaimer for everybody out there, I'm not Canadian. I don't know the subtleties of singing the Canadian anthem. I haven't, heard it a ton. I don't know how it should sound or where to put the right emphasis on notes, but this woman's voice was terrible, as was her emoting and facial expressions. It's like she took selling lessons from Rip Rogers or something.
That's just how the Canadians sing, man.
Oh, okay. That almost flappy head style.
Yeah.
In all seriousness, though, I wasn't a fan of her singing. It wasn't as terrible as I put it over as being, but I did a little search, and Joanie Wilson is virtually non-existent on the internet and on the singing scene. She didn't go far.
Burying Joanie Wilson.
I thought she was an up-and-coming singing sensation.
Just burying Joanie Wilson.
This was as high as she was going to get, and she came and went, apparently. So the crowd got into it. By the end, though, people did seem pretty excited. I'm not sure if that's because they were feeling the patriotism or because they were glad it was over. But either way, it couldn't have been that bad. I was pretty entertained by the video montage of various Canadian sceneries being put up on the screen during her performance. I thought that was quite beautiful.
I thought it was a little bit predictable, with the scenes. It's like elk and mountains and snow.
Yeah.
It was a little bit like I was waiting for Ren and Stimpy to come out and sing about the Mounties.
It was like the first thing that pops up on Google Images for Canada.
But now let's look at something significantly less attractive. Interim President Gorilla Monsoon. Gorilla is not going to allow Shawn Michaels to wrestle tonight due to the injuries sustained when he single-handedly fought off 24 drunken Marines. But Shawn is going to vacate the Intercontinental title to Monsoon, and Monsoon is going to hand it to Dean Douglas, making Douglas the new Intercontinental Champion with all the rights and privileges that entails, whatever the hell that means. Dean will, however, be defending that title immediately after that forfeiture against Razor Ramon. Gorilla states that it's one of the most difficult decisions he's had to make in his career, and I was a little skeptical about that because he's been interim president for less than 3 months now, and the way that he's talking about this situation, it's almost like the way a grandpa explains to a 6-year-old that he's going to have to put down the family dog. A little too sappy for my taste here. There's a video montage then, showing various scenes around the arena where fans are excited to be attending in your house. And then there's that one guy shouting for Shawn Michaels. I don't think he's going to get what he wants tonight. And we finally get to the cartoon in your house logo entrance. In pure Canadian fashion, instead of breaking into the house, this time it walks in through the front door and politely sits down on the couch. Only the twist here, the swerve, bro, is that the logo gets eaten by the image of Yokozuna coming out of the screen. Pure poetry there. We do get some brief introductory talk from Vince, the King, and Jim Ross, but before we move on, I would like to hear you guys' thoughts on how we kicked off this pay-per-view, specifically the startling new news, or at least, if we were fans, contemporary fans at the time of this pay-per-view, this would have been the first we're really hearing about Shawn Michaels. So, Ryan, why don't you take that first?
If I just bought this and I'm sitting down watching and, just last week I learned that we're not going to see The Undertaker. Instead, it's going to be replaced with Yokozuna versus Mabel. Wow. I mean, what a replacement, right? And now, right as the match starts, we learn we're not going to get Shawn Michaels. So we have two of our biggest stars that were supposed to be in this pay-per-view on the sidelines. So I have to think if I ordered this, I'm pretty pissed off right now.
Yeah, if I bought this and I just find out I don't have Shawn Michaels on the card, that's really disappointing. So yeah, but I guess they didn't have much time to think about it either. They were kind of under pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can't really blame them, but it's a disappointment.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed on all that. It's significant enough to have to talk about, but at the same time, what are you going to do? The show must go on, They've kept the show going on after worse things have happened. Well, we're going to head now into our first match of the night. Hunter Hearst Helmsley defeats Make a Difference Fatu by pinfall in 8 minutes and 6 seconds. First thing that I had to note is the drum track to Fatu's entrance music sounds like a ripoff of Ween's The Going Gets Tough from the Get-Go. I know you guys probably don't know that song, but you should check it out. It's pretty damn fucking close. I had to go back and listen to it. This past weekend, I guess Hunter took a page from Rick Martel's book and has been spraying people with cologne randomly in the backstage. Hopefully, Jake the Snake and Damien don't show up anytime soon because they'll probably get atomized. I continue to love the execution of the Blue Blood gimmick. It's like, Hunter and Goldust are going to be the two exceptions to the rule whenever I bitch about gimmicks from now on, because as over the top as they are, they pull them off so fantastically well. The opening energy of this match was good. Fatu's punches in the corner looked a bit weak, and I had to note, you can tell Hunter has been getting tips on selling from Shawn Michaels. There were a couple spots within the first minute and a half, 2 minutes of this match that it could have been Shawn Michaels selling some of these moves. The way he was flipping over the top turnbuckle and the way he was going to the outside, and just, you could tell that they had been learning from each other. And the dancing. My God, the dancing. For whatever reason, Vince doesn't call Hunter an idiot for working Fatu's head here like he did Skip. I also had to note, props to Hunter for getting Fatu's big ass up in a pile driver. It wasn't the smoothest looking thing, but that could not have been easy. And here, in my notes, is where I noticed that Lon Chaney looking motherfucker in the front row, opposite the hard camera. He kind of looked like Gennaro from Jurassic Park, dressed as a Halloween vampire. I'm not sure if he's going to be in an angle later or not. We do end up seeing him in a little closer later, but nothing noteworthy. I loved Fatu selling the whip and selling the clothesline, and I fucking hated Vince saying he got him on every single goddamn pinfall. This is something that is just constant anymore. And they're consistent. Fatu no-sells a DDT and dances afterwards. But goddamn, that super kick to follow it up looked fantastic. And Fatu with the diamond cutter looked good too. They didn't call it that, obviously, but that's what it was. And I do like the flying headbutt from Fatu as a finisher. But I like the pedigree finisher more. What confused me about the finish here is, what's the difference between the pedigree and any other head-focused attack? Why does the pedigree work when a DDT doesn't? Does this mean that Fatu will never get pinned by Isaac Yankem? JR actually does try to clarify for us after the match that it's because it's on Fatu's face instead of Fatu's head. That feels like a pretty cheap distinction. All in all, though, I thought this was a pretty damn solid match. The little things that I pointed out, that was just me nitpicking for the sake of nitpicking. The work was solid and looked good. And I am going to give this match 3 stars. I thought it was a great way to start this pay-per-view. Ryan, what did you think of it?
I'm kind of in agreement here. I thought this was a pretty enjoyable match and a good way to start off this pay-per-view. We start off where Vince finally clarifies something for us. He says that Fatu is from San Francisco, but of Samoa heritage. So that was, I guess, to try and merge the two storylines together for us. Thanks, Vince. We needed that. I also really loved Hunter just playing up the blue blood. Now he's got the perfume bottle out there that he's spraying around, and Fatu does a good job of playing off the gimmick where he grabs it and throws it to the ground, as they start off their match. And they start off really solid. Big slams out of each other, and everyone's selling them pretty good. I also had to note, though, that after Hunter mistakenly tries to bang Fatu's head off the turnbuckle just like Skip, no idiot comment out of Vince. So I guess Hunter is not an idiot like Skip. But there is a way, it seems, to hurt Fatu's head, and that is to catch it between the ropes and then beat on it. That did hurt Fatu's head. And then right after that, Hunter followed it up with that pile driver. Not the cleanest, but pretty good. He then did land a pretty good-looking swinging neck breaker. And then I liked that JR tried to squeeze in a little bit of commentary between Vince and Lawler talking about Fatu's house and cockroaches. He brings up that, this was a good strategy by Hunter to bring Fatu to the ground because it destroys Fatu's vertical base. Just hearing little things like that feel like actual real commentary is really nice to hear. And then Vince follows that up with a simple, indeed.
Yeah.
From there, we got the DDT, we get the pedigree. I completely agree with you. I gave it a 3-star. I thought this was a very solid match that was pretty entertaining between two future Hall of Famers here. Good way to start this pay-per-view.
I liked this match a lot. I saw Fatu had the BSK hat. I don't know if you guys saw that. That's a little bit of backstage stuff, the Undertaker's crew. So that was cool. Fatu, to me, I'm really impressed with him in this match. This is the first match we've seen against a non-jobber, and yes, Skip is a jobber now, so this is the first match against, I guess, a big name. And, for a fat guy, he works very well. I'm just really impressed with it. The gimmick stuff is stupid, but I can get past it. I'm not too distracted with it, the head stuff and the dancing. I gave this 3 stars as well. Dave Meltzer says that he gave it 2 stars. He said that Fatu worked much harder than usual and did a good job of carrying Helmsley, who they are clearly protecting and building for the future. And Meltzer also called the angle with the slop bucket, which we'll get into here in a little bit. He called that just a waste of time it went nowhere.
Complete agreement with him on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. To fill our listeners in here, there's a post-match interview with Hunter and the King, and it's typical in content. Hunter seemed a little blown up, but he was still able to perform this. And then what do you know it? Henry O. Godwin is there to sneak up and attempt to slop Hunter, but Hunter gets away. That is a feud between 2 great workers that I could enjoy. Once I kind of sat back and thought about it, I think a match between Hunter Hearst Helmsley and Henry O. Godwin would be pretty good. I just hope that it doesn't get ruined by gimmicks and stipulations like so many other matches get ruined.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Slop on a pole match. Backstage, Doc Hendricks is there to interview the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, and Jim Cornette. Cornette and the Bulldog both cut a couple of short promos for us. I thought they were both pretty good, the Bulldog's especially. I felt that the Bulldog was able to really put something extra into it with his intensity, and I popped my ass off for that final roid rage flex that he threw at us through the screen. Before we move on, just real briefly, Joe, what did you think about that apparent conflict between Hunter and Godwin, and then the backstage promos from Cornette and the Bulldog?
I think the thing with Hunter and Godwin, same thing you said. I kind of look forward to that being a program, but, we're going to have the slop involved and all the other stupid shit. For the Bulldog's facing Diesel later in this show, and I feel like I should be excited about that because it has potential to be the first non-shitty main event in quite some time. But I don't know what it is, guys. I just don't feel excited about that match at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement over the Bulldogs promo here. I thought it was a very competent promo. It felt very classic, like the just standard heel promo that you would get, way back in whatever, the 60s, 70s, 80s, name it. So I enjoyed that, but I kind of agree the match itself, like I stated last week, I'm just not excited for, though. So no matter what Cornette or the Bulldog can really do here, I'm not sure they can get me up for this match. As far as Godwin and Triple H go, yeah, in agreement with you two. These are 2 good guys that could definitely work as long as they could keep the gimmick to a minimum.
Yeah. I agree with both of you guys on the fact that this just can't get me excited for the title event later on tonight. But going back to something that we had talked about in the past, this promo really got me into the mindset of the Bulldog as a heel now. It was kind of shaky before. It kind of was never quite there, but I felt this was a pretty solid heel promo out of the Bulldog, and I think I'm on board with the Bulldog's full turn here now. Well, we will come out of that interview and go into our next match. The Smoking Guns defeat Razor Ramon and the 1-2-3 Kid by pinfall in 12 minutes and 46 seconds to retain the WWF Tag Team Championships. The 1-2-3 Kid's outfit is better than Grandma Ninja, but not by much. For anybody wondering what that reference is about, go check out our, WrestleMania 11 episode in the archives, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Grandma Ninja. To kind of just put a better descriptor on it, this is the traditional 1-2-3 Kid outfit, but with Razor's colors, so the gold and purple. It's always amazing to me that the sparks from Razor Ramon's pyro don't ignite Razor's hair like Michael Jackson in a Pepsi commercial. With the amount of Jerry curl or grease or whatever going on in there, you'd think something would cause it to catch. The pacing of this match to start was good. I liked. I almost said loved, but I was, still getting warmed up on this. I liked the Kid and Billy Gunn feeling each other out. And then that led to a great sequence between the two of them. Then Bart and Razor. At this point already, for me, this was some damn good storytelling going on in the ring as these two feel each other out as well. Just the back and forth, the ebb and flow of these guys testing each other. I was getting into it. I was pissed off, though, that we got a view of Dean Douglas taking notes. We missed some action in the ring to focus on that for a minute. There was a lot of stuff going on here that looked fantastic, but I gotta say, Bart Gunn repeatedly giving the 1-2-3 Kid backbreakers had me popping my ass off. I fucking loved it. And my God, that dual vertical suplex drop kick chain move the Guns put on the Kin looked amazing. At one point, JR says, "They're wasting valuable time here." Yes, JR, I agree. And then out of nowhere, we get the reversal for the 3 count. But there's shenanigans here at the end. The 1-2-3 Kid throws a temper tantrum to finish the segment, attacking the Smoking Guns and acting like a shithead in general. So, in case you haven't noticed, there's not a lot of notes here on a 12.5-minute match, and that's because the reason is I was fully engaged in this match. These guys were absolute fucking professionals, and they were telling an amazing story in the ring here. I was in it. This is what a tag team champion match should look like, and while it's certainly up for debate, I think this is one of the best tag team matches I've seen since we started this podcast, if not the best. I'm giving this match 4 fucking stars because I loved it. Joe, please, what did you think of it?
Billy Gunn cut his hair.
Yeah.
I gotta give that 5 stars. Yeah, I agree. This was a great match. You already said it with the psychology when these guys are first in the ring together, feeling each other out was fantastic. Just circling the ring, waiting for the chant from the crowd. You know, they took their time. But when they started working, it was fast and aggressive and entertaining. I really liked when the Kid pulled the ropes down. It was kind of a heel move there. Vince called it a devastating maneuver, of course.
Yep.
What isn't?
Yeah. I liked that a lot. I liked everything about this. And think about the 1-2-3 Kid, all the different tag team partners that he's had during this time period. Razor Ramon, Bob Holly, Marty Jannetty for a little bit. Like, he's been great in tag team wrestling. But it was a weird match because the crowd was really behind Razor and 1-2-3 Kid. Not that they were heels. I mean, you have 2 babyface teams, but it was just kind of weird to hear the Smoking Guns getting booed. I don't know. That was just really weird. It kind of reminded me a way smaller scale of the match between The Rock and Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania. It's like they're feeling out the crowd, and then the crowd kind of switches. They kind of switch on them.
Yeah.
Like the Russians starting to cheer for Rocky.
Yes. Yeah. I am giving this 3 stars. I wanted to give it 4 like you, Bartlett, but the Kid looking like a shithead at the end kind of brought it down for me. The shenanigans at the end, I just didn't like it. I was just thinking like, man, this was a great match. Just get out of the ring and move on with the show, you know?
In agreement with you two here again. You know, this was just a fun match to watch. Like you, Bartlett, you know, I didn't end up taking a ton of notes, but that had nothing to do with this match being bad by any means. Quite the opposite. It's because I was focused on the match and I just kept on noticing I wasn't taking notes because I was just too involved in this match. The interaction between all 4 of these guys, I mean, these are all 4 legends here, and they work like it. There was really not a single spot in this match that I could point at and say, oh, you know, that was bad. If you really wanted to nitpick, you could probably find some things, but man, you'd have to really be an asshole. I mean, and right at the beginning, I loved when Razor got tagged in. And, you know, he first does the typical, ooh, I'm scared maneuver out of Scott Hall. But then he does a very Johnny Ringo from Tombstone mocking of Billy Gunn, like twirling the pistols at his side and then putting them away in the fake holster. I thought that was pretty funny. And the action just stays on. How long did you say this match was? 12 minutes?
Yep, 12:46.
Almost 13 minutes, and it is pretty much balls to the wall the whole time, no matter who's in there. I mean, I can't really pick who my favorite was, but towards the end, that one move where Bart held up the kid and then Billy came in and drop kicked the kid in the stomach, that was a really slick maneuver there. And I'm going to go with Bartlett. I thought this was a 4-star match. I didn't necessarily like some of the stuff at the end with the kid and how much of a shithead he was being, but it happened after the match, so yeah. I wasn't going to take away from it. So 4 stars.
Joe, what'd Meltzer think?
Dave Meltzer gave this 2 3/4 stars.
What a fuckhead.
He seems to think that this was supposed to be a heel turn that was potentially botched. He's saying that it should have been a heel turn, but the announcers did not sell it as such, and the Guns were the ones that were getting booed by the crowd. And he's saying that the only indication that it was a heel turn is because the 1-2-3 Kid was being rude to callers after on the 1-900 shameless line.
But no, the potential heel turn had nothing to do with the Kid acting like a shithead to the babyfaces after the match?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I thought it was pretty fucking clear.
Yeah, okay.
To me, it wasn't. And he raises a good point with the commentators not really treating it as such.
Okay, well.
The commentators could have done a better job with it, but I thought what the Kid was doing, I was like, all right, well, he's a full-on heel now.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've said it before, the 3-man booth just... It's so difficult to have a quality booth with the 3 of them in there. Because JR is obviously good at what he does, but Vince McMahon is just too, and the King. I mean, we got to keep the King in that too. The 2 of them are just too powerful of a personality. They just overwhelm everything, and if one little thing gets lost, you're never going to hear about it again. All right, let's move it along to the next segment, and that is the Doc Hendricks and the Barry fucking Dudensky appreciation segment. Did you know that you can buy life-size cardboard cutouts of Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels? What do you think, kids? Do you want to have a life-size cutout of Bret Hart there in your room watching you sleep? And then when you wake up, he's looking right at you.
What a salesman.
They're only $25. And what's even more shocking is that shipping on these was $3.95.
Wow.
I would have thought that the odd dimensions of a life-size cutout, no matter how you folded it, would have jacked that shipping cost up.
Especially with the free classic video.
Well, anything can happen in the WWE. Just briefly, Ryan, would you have wanted a life-size cutout of Shawn Michaels watching you sleep?
No.
Okay. Joe?
I would not, but I think that this is a sign of the times. They had these everywhere, like Michael Jordan and all these things everywhere. So it is kind of cool that they had this.
To clarify my answer, yeah, that would look great in your man cave or something, but I do not want it in my bedroom overlooking me sleeping.
The sales pitch was awful.
Yeah, in your room, watching you sleep.
Dude.
Then when you wake up, he's looking right at you. All right, well, guys.
Well.
We're going to pull out the shitty Fairgrounds loudspeaker to play the entrance music for our next match. Goldust defeats Marty Jannetty by pinfall in 11 minutes and 15 seconds. We start this match off with another good Goldust promo, but that doesn't make up for the fact that they're still using that shitty fucking Marty Jannetty entrance music. It sounded terrible.
Straight from the VFW.
Yeah, we could have had 8 tracks of music in this recording, but unfortunately, I think we only had 1.5. And finally, I have been waiting to see this entrance for a while now, and here he comes, Goldust. I love how fucking out there this was back then, and even today. You can just feel how strange and different and new this was back then. You can say a lot of different things about Goldust and this debut and the fact that he wears so much makeup and the get-up and the gimmick, and objectively speaking, he's not much different than a Donk the Clown as far as that stuff goes, but there's just something different and intriguing about this. And then the action started. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying that I am a fan of Dustin Rhodes, or Dustin Runnels, however you want to say it, and I am a fan of Goldust. But this very first debut match kind of seemed like Goldust was a little out of shape. I'm not positive on that, but that bodysuit that he was wearing wasn't flattering. He had a teensy bit of rust still on him.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that bodysuit was never flattering on him.
Well, it didn't. Well, okay, in this we can clearly see his gold muffin top sticking out around his trunks.
Yeah, it was a little too tight, I think.
He needs to lean up, or lean down, I guess.
I'm just saying he was never known for being in fantastic shape.
No, not at all. But, I mean, I'm not joking. He had pretty solid love handles going on in this.
He did.
So, but, the drop down to the knees and then punch up. I don't even know what the hell you call that, but Goldust makes it famous and uses it throughout the rest of his career. That looked great already. There was just a little too much time wasted with Goldust shoving Jannetty in the middle of the ring, and Jannetty just kind of standing there, and I guess they were trying to get the crowd involved, but Jannetty selling the clothesline, that looked good. However, something about Jannetty is just really off-putting, and I have zero interest in him or what he's doing ever. I don't care about Marty Jannetty at all. And of course, as soon as I type that, Jannetty does a really weak rollover reversal that just collapses into nothing. Here we get a closer view of Lon Chaney in the crowd here. In the gold circle seating. And the finish, once we got there, it was just kind of there. It matched the action in that it just wasn't anything to scream about. I don't know what the issue here was, if it was genuinely just an awkward match, or if Jannetty was as off as I thought he was, or what, but it honestly fell kind of flat with me. That being said, I am going to continue to put over Goldust. I just have faith that it will get better from here with a different opponent. So based on that, I'm giving this match 2 stars. Ryan, what did you think of it?
It was really, really great to see Goldust, right when his music started. It just brought me back to my childhood.
Yes.
Hearing that glittery sound and the music start. And then I thought it was a good touch for his debut. They had all these flashes going off in the crowd to make it look like there's paparazzi as he slowly walked and made his way to the ring. So I thought it was a very solid debut for Goldust. I also loved this is something we're going to see out of Goldust time and time again, but he does that little shiver thing as he takes off the coat, and Vince goes, "Whoa, this guy is more bizarre by the moment," simply because of the way he took off his jacket. But I do agree that he may be, I mean, Joe let us know that he is actually just coming back from an injury, right? As soon as he kind of debuted, he was injured. So maybe that's why he's not quite up to par right yet. But the gimmick is, everything he's doing to sell the gimmick is working. It's just a little bit of his ring work just looks a bit slow right now. But the way that he works with Jannetty, I'm extremely excited to finally get a mid-Carter heel, which has been missing out of the WWF for a long time. And
Dean
you could
Douglas.
just tell. And you could just tell by the way that Goldust carries himself in the ring that he is a classic bad guy. Just everything about him. And this gimmick is striking. This is something that no one is doing anything like this. So I think it is going to catch the attention of people in a good way. Even though the match itself wasn't fantastic, it wasn't bad either. I do agree with your rating, though. I think it's a 2-star. I was on the level of giving it a 3-star just because how excited I am to see Goldust and a good new heel in the Federation, but just because of the rust, I gave it a 2-star. But I do want to point out that JR and the King really kind of came into their own in this match. There was a couple spots where Vince just kind of sat back and shut the fuck up and let JR and the King just play off each other. And there were points in this match where it just felt like classic Attitude Era commentary. So I am excited that we're finally starting to get there with JR.
Yeah, good point there. I thought this match was the shits. I thought that the crowd was bored out of their skull. It should have gone home way earlier than it did. This match should not have been this long, especially if you're trying to get this guy over, this new guy. So I hated the match, but there were a couple good things for me. I want to give credit to an unsung hero, Jim Johnston, the creator of the music in WWF during this time, because I fucking love this entrance music. With this entrance, you know, this is the guy that came up with this one, Undertaker's music, Stone Cold Steve, like just legendary
almost
music.
Everything.
Yeah. And this is one of my favorites. So credit to him for that. The entrance was great. You know, I think about Dustin Runnels going to the back after this match, probably thinking like, oh, fuck, like that didn't go over well, you know, because this crowd was totally dead, just not buying into it.
Yeah.
So props to him, too, for obviously it became something that worked, and good for him, because this was not a good night, I don't think. And he probably thought that when he went to the back. And Ryan, you mentioned Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler. They did a great job of selling the fact that this guy is bizarre.
Yeah.
They did a really good job with that when it wasn't really working that well in the ring. And the other thing was Jerry Lawler, at the end of the match, he said he shattered the dreams of Marty Jannetty, which that is what his finisher became, was the shattered dreams, right?
Yep.
So that was a nice touch to end it. I gave it 1 star because of those couple things that I did like. I didn't like the match, and to be honest with you, it was probably mostly because of Marty Jannetty. I just didn't think that Marty Jannetty was a good dance partner for him on this night. I just didn't think it worked. So Dave Meltzer gave this 1.5 star. He said that the crowd did not react to the gimmick, so it came off as much ado about nothing.
I don't think this match was about sex at all.
Androgynous.
Joe, as you were giving your opinions on this match, which, you know, you had some very, very good points in there. I almost wonder if it was a mistake to debut Goldust in front of a Canadian audience. You know, people that are generally speaking a little more subdued, a little more toned down than their American cousins.
Right, like it's totally different from like New York if they would have debuted it in New York.
Right.
I mean, food for thought on that one. It's all hindsight now, but hey, who wants to call into 1-900-SHAMELESS and listen to the 1-2-3 kid whine about his loss?
I did like Jerry Lawler. What did he say? Something about he's whining to his mommy.
Yeah. I can't believe they beat us. Let's take a look back and see why we're about to be subjected to a match between two mammoths. And
my lord.
A video package of just poor wrestling. Cornett gets an interview in here, and he is attempting to address the conflict of interest between him and Yoko and Mabel. I guess he's managing Mabel now. I don't know. That just seemed off to me. I know they've kind of been friendly in the past, but at no point has Cornett ever been a manager for Mabel like he is definitely a manager for Yoko. So I don't get why there's an issue, but hey man, whatever. We can't delay it any longer. We're going to go now into our next match.
Double wide! Double deep!
King Mabel with Sermo versus Yokozuna with Jim Cornette and Mr. Fuji ends with a double count out in 5 minutes and 12 seconds. I was not surprised to have a lot of delays, stalling, and non-action in this. The match technically lasted 5 minutes and 12 seconds, bell to bell. The actual action in the ring, significantly less than that.
23 seconds.
Yes. And, I pretty much captured it here in my notes. So, I have my first note. I wasn't surprised to have a lot of delays. And then the next note is, and then the bell rang to end the match. The ref counted everybody out because they were fat and flopping around outside. This was exactly as I predicted as far as what happened during the match goes. Zero action and a lot of sweating. And, for so much meat in the ring, there was nothing here to bite into. This was a dud from start to finish in every way possible. Joe, what did you think, please?
Yeah, it was a dud. They should have just made this a sumo match like Yokozuna and Earthquake. I would have been more interested, I think.
That definitely would have been more entertaining.
Yep. Total dud from me.
Is that it?
That's it.
Yes, agreement here. This was absolutely terrible. The best thing about it was King Mabel coming out on the throne wearing those Morpheus sunglasses. That was about the only thing entertaining tonight in this match, because right out of the gate, all three of the guys on commentary just take their turns making buffet and food and fat guy jokes. We learn Yokozuna is slightly heavier at 641 pounds, so he has the weight advantage. Then the match starts, I guess. There's a couple punches, then let's roll out of the ring and waste about 5 minutes just catching our breath. There's like a couple punches and a clothesline, basically make up the entirety of this match.
Yeah.
And then Yokozuna just falls onto James E. Cornett.
Yeah.
I don't know why. He falls onto him, and that is the double count out. And then Yokozuna and Mabel hug. I mean, yeah. I don't know. I expected this to be bad, but somehow it was even worse than I expected. Extremely slow, extremely sloppy, extreme amounts of wasting time.
Extreme.
This could be nothing else other than a dud. This dud. I mean, bad.
Yeah.
It can be something else, Ryan, and that would be -2 stars from Dave Meltzer.
That's fitting.
Horrible match with a horrible finish and a strong candidate for worst match of the year.
God.
Wow. Yeah. Well, can't disagree with Uncle Dave there. I was just about to say, if there was ever a reason for us to go below a dud, it would have been this match. Just refresh my memory here, guys. What pay-per-view is this that we're watching?
In Your House 4?
Oh, okay. Well, it's time to put over Survivor Series. At Survivor Series, it looks like The Undertaker is going to reignite that red-hot feud with King Mabel.
Ooh.
Thank you.
Hopefully he doesn't get the other side of his face broken in that match.
Hopefully he doesn't fall on Paul Bearer.
Yeah.
Hopefully the match doesn't happen.
We're not that lucky. Also, Bret Hart will get a shot at the title. And I have to give it to them that they did a good job here of leaving it up in the air as to who will have the title at the end of the night tonight. Usually they tip their hand pretty heavily as to what the match results are going to be with that kind of thing. But this Survivor Series report, I guess you'd call it, was brought to you by Milton Bradley's Karate Fighters.
Hell yeah.
That looked like a pretty cool take on Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
They were fucking badass.
Yeah, they were awesome.
Well, there's some talk about the upcoming Survivor Series matches, and by that I mean the actual Survivor team matches that are a staple of that pay-per-view. But it seems like there's going to be some bullshit there thanks to fan-friendly interim president Gorilla Monsoon. I don't even know what to say about it. Something about faces and heels getting mixed, but they didn't use those exact terms, and just, I don't know. I think at one point Jim Ross misquoted the number of individuals going into matches. I'm not positive. It kind of lost me because of all of the pay-per-views, Survivor Series is my least favorite, so it's an uphill battle for me on that. But now let's go to Doc Hendricks. Where is he? Oh, right, he's right there in front of us in the ring. Doc is there with Gorilla Monsoon, and here comes Dean Douglas. And this is going to be the Intercontinental Championship forfeiture. Now here comes Shawn Michaels. And Shawn Michaels looks like hell. You can tell he got the shit beat out of him for real by an entire platoon of roided up Special Forces Marines. Shawn drags it out. I understand why he was doing the dragging out here, but this was not very entertaining, especially because Dean Douglas was there. But Dean did get some heat from it whenever he ran over and snatched the belt out of Shawn Michaels' hands. And that's it. Dean Douglas is the new Intercontinental Champion. Easy peasy. That whole thing, hey man, whatever. But before we move it along, I just want to hear you guys' thoughts on this stuff. And by that, I mean, the upcoming Survivor Series, but more so this ceremony that they made out of Shawn Michaels forfeiting the belt. Joe, why don't you go first on this one here?
Well, I think it's funny that Shawn is, first off, he's like overly dramatic about it, which, I mean, he did a good job with that. That's what he's supposed to do. He's putting himself over as this babyface that's had this unfortunate incident, but it's funny that we know that he was being a total drunk asshole. And that's why this happened. And then we get this. And the only thing that I don't like any of this really, to be honest, but they had to do what they had to do. But why did they just give it to Dean Douglas? Why didn't they just say Shawn is going to forfeit and Dean and Razor are going to wrestle for the belt tonight? Like, yep. I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just to start mine and to play off that, why wasn't there, like before, a tournament for the winner, right? That's what happened before.
We're going to have a battle royale, but it's going to be tomorrow on Raw.
And that's for the contender off of the already winner.
Yeah.
Right.
So, that's just stupid.
Yeah.
And this was where I remember hearing Shane Douglas talk about this. Like, this is where he really started to get pissed off with the Clique, because I guess there was some shit going on in the back with Razor.
Well, understandably so. I mean, I'm not going to say what happens, but I mean, by the end of the next match, you could clearly see why Dean would be pissed off.
Yeah.
As far as Shawn did a serviceable job. I mean, he did what he had to do. He came out here with his fucking bloodshot eyes and he forfeited the belt. The only thing that I thought is a little bit odd about this is it seems like this is becoming a pattern with Shawn, where he forfeits the Intercontinental belt. So that's a little unfortunate. So hopefully he can go backstage and Sonny could nurse him back to health.
Oh,
sunny days. Yeah. Just real quick, are either of you guys excited about Survivor Series?
Not yet. I don't like Survivor Series. I'm with you on that.
I am, but it's because I know what the result is going to be at the end. Okay. Something great is going to happen.
Okay. It's something to look forward to. It's already a step up from last year. All right. Well, that ceremony that we just had will immediately lead us into our next match. Razor Ramon defeats Dean Douglas by pinfall in 11 minutes and 1 second to win the WWF Intercontinental Championship. I have to hand it to Dean Douglas here. He was selling these holds pretty well at the beginning, but unfortunately, we spent way too much time in these holds. I don't know what it was, if it was I just kind of assumed, I guess, that it was Razor Ramon fucking with Dean Douglas and not letting him do much. I'm not sure about that. Lead-assing him, really. But I loved how Jim Ross gave us an intelligent and informed breakdown of the match, citing Razor's size advantage and potential strategy. And then the silence afterward, as Vince didn't know how to respond to some actual quality commentary. Razor tossing Douglas into the corner. That looked rough. It looked like Dean went into it too low, and the top turnbuckle caught him in the neck and the back of the head. That was just rough to watch. The times when Dean Douglas got some action in, he didn't look bad at all. But again, very few and far between. And then we got to the finish. We have to get an official decision on it because it's not clear who won, which says something all by itself. And I'm not going any farther with this. I don't know why or who or what the problem was in this, but it seems like Douglas's trouble with the Clique has continued on into this match. And in my opinion, pure opinion here, folks, because I know none of this is a fact, It's just pretty goddamn unprofessional to have this much petty bullshit involved in and therefore ruin a pay-per-view Intercontinental title match regardless of how we got to it with, the shit and the forfeiture and all that. This match legitimately pissed me off because it seems like nobody even tried. Or at least Dean Douglas kind of tried sometimes, but I don't know. I don't know. I'll leave it at that. This match was a dud as far as I'm concerned. Ryan, what did you have on this one?
Yes, just a real disappointment. Because again, we have Razor Ramon, who we know one of the best the company has to offer. Dean Douglas, so far what we've seen out of him and out of the WWF has not been all that promising, but all of us know Douglas from other promotions, and he's a good wrestler. So something is going on here that I'm not privy to, you know what I mean? Because there's absolutely no reason these two guys should not be able to put on a at least solid match with each other.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's Razor and the Clique just being dickbags to Dean here, or if it was because Razor had to wrestle 2 matches tonight.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because one thing that really stuck out in this match to me was it was slow.
Yeah.
It was slow and boring. And that was what kind of made me think that maybe, Razor was just tired or just a little bit banged up from the match earlier, because it just seemed like they were stretching this match out and trying to make it look like something decent was going to happen. But it was just very, very slow pacing that I found myself just fucking looking at my watch at times because it was boring. It's a shame. It's a real shame. And the other shame is that it was clear Dean Douglas was just a fucking placeholder for this belt.
Yeah.
They didn't want Razor to be given the belt. They wanted him to kind of win it, because that's the other fucked up thing about this match. It's a shitty ending too. We don't even get a clean end to have a legitimate champ for this belt. Just all around fucking dumb and a dud.
Yeah, very boring. Boring is the magic word here for this one. I was bored out of my mind on this, and we got this weird finish. Was it botched? Was it planned? I don't know. It was just really bad. You have Razor Ramon leaving with the Intercontinental title, but he didn't really win it fair and square, so I'm not quite sure what's going on with that. But yeah, just so boring, and these guys are capable of doing so much better. And they are not giving it all they have. They're not leaving it all out there. I'm going with 1 star. I could go dud, but I gave it 1 star just because of the match that we just saw before this. I just said, you know what? I can't give this one a dud because of that. And Dave Meltzer gave it 1 star.
And that's what kind of sucks when you have a dud, right? Because, when you compare this dud to the last dud, yes, the last dud was significantly worse, but yeah, I still felt it deserved a dud, just not quite as big of a dud as the Yokozuna Mabel match.
It deserved a dud because this was a fucking Intercontinental title match.
Yes, fair point.
And I'm not, I could go dud. I gave it 1 star when I was watching it.
You're fucking wrong.
I could easily go dud on this. Dave Meltzer gives it 1 star. He said the last 2 minutes were good with some nice moves and near falls before a flat finish, but he said the match was real bad.
Yeah. So that's it. You're a Meltzer fanboy going along with your buddy Dave.
No, because I didn't think that he actually raises a pretty decent point there. The last 2 minutes were pretty good, but
they did pick it up, but I was already lost at that point.
Yeah. And I want to say those last 2 minutes were up there and doing well because it was Dean Douglas mostly in control of them, right?
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
My final takeaway from this is Dean Douglas's Intercontinental title reign lasted approximately 11 minutes. So as commentary previously threatened to us, Bret Hart is going to come down and sit in on commentary for the final match. As usual, the King does not believe that this is happening, despite being told repeatedly that it was going to happen. Thankfully, though, the King runs off, but then runs back, but then runs off, then runs back. And after just some really stupid shit, we finally sit down with Bret Hart replacing Jerry Lawler in the 3-man booth. I don't see what could possibly go wrong with that. I mean, it's not Art Donovan level, but as much as I love and respect Bret Hart, he was never that strong on the mic. We get Doc Hendricks backstage with that crappy Two Dudes with Attitude shirt, and then a quick question with Diesel, who says he's feeling funky. Okay, before heading to the ring. Just briefly, Ryan, what did you think of this little exchange with Diesel leading into our main event?
I have to admit, I tried to rewind a couple times to hear what exactly Doc Hendricks asked him. What did he say to him?
That's a great question.
Okay. Yeah, I had no clue.
I'm guessing, how are you feeling?
But it was so quiet, I even cranked the volume, put earphones in. I couldn't actually hear the question that Doc Hendricks asked him. So I just heard that Diesel was feeling funky, and I went, okay, let's move on to the match.
Yeah, it just fell flat for me.
Yeah.
Like, again, I'm still not excited for this match.
Yeah. Well... Here we go. Our final match of the night. The British Bulldog defeats Diesel by disqualification in 18 minutes and 14 seconds, with Diesel retaining the WWF Championship as a result. I loved, at the start of this, the British Bulldog making sure that he was part of the hard camera view of Diesel's entrance, causing the directors or producers or whoever to cut away from it. We did not see the typical Diesel pose with the pyro in the ring. Loved it. And yeah, here is where I really had to note that as much as I like Bret Hart, he's just not good on commentary at all. He doesn't have that particular kind of charisma needed for that. Diesel gets put out of the ring and then takes the opportunity to shove Bret Hart. I don't really get where that came from at all. It was out of nowhere, but it does get explained away as just adrenaline making Diesel react to Bret's attempt to catch Diesel as Diesel was stumbling around. I liked the attempt of the Bulldog to put a submission hold on Diesel. That kind of got me popping a little bit. I can't be positive, but I believe if the Bulldog would have rolled Diesel over to complete the move, that would have been a Texas cloverleaf he was attempting. I also liked Cornett dropping an elbow on Diesel at the outside. The interference was well done there, I thought. Generally, I don't like that kind of thing, but this was... maybe it's just because I dislike Diesel, I don't know, but I was okay with it. But, that ended up going a little too long, with Cornett repeatedly sneaking around the ring to go after Diesel. That kind of just felt like they were just milking it for time. So much time was being spent on working Diesel's leg throughout this match. I understand the need to do so and the strategy in doing so, but it just makes for a boring match. I got a good chuckle out of Bret Hart saying that the Bulldog needs to learn how to put the sharpshooter on right, and I also got a good chuckle out of Diesel peg-legging around the ring to sell his injured or worked on, at least, knee. And then we finally got to the finish. The finish was the Bulldog slapping Bret Hart for seemingly no reason. Maybe because of that sharpshooter comment, who knows. And Bret Hart going after the Bulldog in the ring to get the disqualification win. Then, of course, Diesel is angry about the loss, despite keeping the title, and attacks Bret Hart. Henry Godwinn and the Smoking Guns have to come out and help the dozen officials that are out there already to separate Diesel and Bret Hart. They keep going after each other, and that's where we fade to black and end this pay-per-view. So I had to stop and think about this match after it was over because, and I'm sure you guys have heard this too, over the course of the many, many shoot interviews that are out there, whenever the discussion comes around to Diesel, there are always a couple main arguments that you get with this. You always get, first of all, that Diesel was the longest title reign in the 90s at, 51 weeks or something like that. Which is true. Diesel held the title longer than any other person in the entire decade of the 90s in one stretch. And then you get to people saying, well, Diesel was the shittiest champion ever. Sales were down. He couldn't draw. And the usual response to that is, well, look at who Diesel was working with. Because, you've got the matches with Sid that were shitty. You've got the matches with Mabel that were shitty. Fucking, all this other stuff. And that's a fair critique. But we did get a match here with an excellent worker in the Bulldog. The Bulldog maintained the offensive through the majority of this match and took the brunt of the effort and stamina going into this. Diesel pretty much laid around selling his leg for most of this 18 minutes. That being said, the only part of this that got me excited at all was at the finish, when it was just Bret Hart and the British Bulldog in the ring. Nothing else, including any of the previous stuff that I mentioned, got me really popping. I'm going with 1 star for this match, which I'm pretty sure is the highest rating I've given a Diesel Championship match so far in 1995. Joe, what did you think about our main event here?
Well, I went back to the dud rating for this. I went back to it because it was 15 minutes of nonstop leg holds and Jim Ross reminding us of the 10 knee surgeries that Diesel has had in his life.
Yeah.
Just such a horrible match, missed opportunity for something good. Maybe the Bulldog just isn't as good at working heel. I don't know, but this just should have been better, and it wasn't. As far as Bret Hart's commentary, I liked it. So I disagree with you on that. I actually enjoyed it. I liked that he was talking strategy. It gave us something different. Maybe it was just because I'm so sick of Vince McMahon by this point, but I thought it was just something fresh, I guess. I didn't think he was great, but it was something fresh. And the spot with him, with Diesel smacking him in the head, getting that going, I thought was pretty good. But again, I feel like that's something you could do on Raw.
Yeah.
That's not something that you want to do in a main event with British Bulldog versus Diesel. I just think that it kind of hurt the match a little bit. So I'm giving this a dud, just mostly because, again, it was like just the leg, the injury stuff. And then at the end, when Bret comes in, I guess his knee was fine. He was fine at the end of the match, which makes no sense.
So to start off, first of all, I'm in agreement with Bartlett on Bret Hart's commentary. I was not a fan. Very, very quickly into it, I was missing the king very quickly. Bret Hart starts off with just repeating strong and strongest about 300 times and saying that this is the main thing that these two guys are going to need. Then he immediately comes back and talks about strength again, but then adds endurance this time and how important that is. Then 2 seconds later, he brings up speed. It's starting to sound like Bret Hart is going to create us a video game wrestler as he just runs through all the attributes that a wrestler needs to be a good wrestler. Then the action, quote unquote, starts in the ring, and my Lord, was this bad. There was nothing but working on Diesel's legs. And I love the Bulldog. Clearly, this could not have been his idea. Someone had to tell him, we're going to spend 20 minutes of you putting knee moves on Diesel. We're going to do nothing else. This just felt like 20 minutes of filler. It was like they were trying to fill out a proper heavyweight match length, but they weren't giving us any of the meat that you actually want to see in a heavyweight match. This was maybe even more boring than the Razor Ramon Dean Douglas match. This was just so boring because every time it looked like maybe there was going to be a little bit of action in the ring, no, the Bulldog just starts working on Diesel's legs again. And then it ends in this shitty ending, disqualification, and Diesel just keeps the belt, and I fucking hated it. Goddamn. Another pay-per-view headlined by Diesel and another dead rating. Mark it, dude.
Yeah. What'd Meltzer think, Joe?
Dave Meltzer gave it 1 star. He said virtually the entire match was Davey Boy Smith working on Diesel's left knee. and it did not have a strong finish and came off as a boring match.
Yeah, he's pretty much repeating me.
Yeah. All right. Well, as we said before, that is the match that ended this pay-per-view, and it is over now. So just overall, I thought that this pay-per-view was not as bad as I originally assumed it would be. I don't know what it is, just you hear in various forums and interviews that Inner House 4 was a pretty piss-poor pay-per-view. And while there were some stinkers here, there were a couple decent matches too, especially that Smoking Guns Razor Ramon 1-2-3 match. That was a fucking banger of a match that I really, really enjoyed watching. I almost wish that was our main event. But, again, if I would have spent $15 to order this, I probably would have been a little pissed off about that. Let's hear what you guys have to say. Joe, or Ryan, why don't you go first, and then Joe, you can give us your thoughts and Meltzer's in the numbers.
I didn't think this pay-per-view started off bad at all. I mean, we started off with a handful of really strong matches, a couple 3 stars, some 4 stars. I mean, we had some good matches to start this pay-per-view off. And then it hit a wall with the Yokozuna Mabel match. It crashed to the ground and was never able to recover past that. Every match after that was bad, including the terrible dud match for the heavyweight headliner yet again. One good thing out of this pay-per-view is they appear to be giving JR a little bit more leeway, and he's starting to come into his own. And I'm starting to feel that classic JR King interaction that we all will grow to love. So that is a plus coming out of here, but overall another lackluster In Your House, mainly because of the way it finished.
Yeah, I don't have much different opinions here. I think that last week, I think I said I was looking forward to the Fatu and Hunter-Hearst Helmsley match, and that match did not disappoint and was not even the best match on the event because, like you said, that tag match was very good. And then, you hit a wall there. A lot of disappointment here. You had an Intercontinental title match that was the shits. You had a heavyweight title match that was the shits. You had a Goldust debut that was the shits. No Shawn Michaels. Just really, really disappointing. So as far as the numbers go, I was a little bit surprised by this, I guess, but the reaction to this event was not good. Can you guys guess what the percentage of thumbs up was for this event?
23%.
Yeah, I'll go 30.
1.3% thumbs up.
Damn.
Wow.
95.8% thumbs down, 3% in the middle. It was just such a piss poor reaction. I mean, this is worse than King of the Ring.
That's bad.
Best match, no surprise, was the Smoking Guns versus 1-2-3 Kid and Razor Ramon. Worst match, I guess no surprise, was Mabel versus Yokozuna.
Yeah.
So, you look at that and it's like, man, that match really just killed this whole event. A couple extra comments from Meltzer. He said, although the poll would indicate otherwise, as this was the worst poll reaction to a WWF show in history, I would say it was very bad, but not overtly offensive or horrible. The crowd started out hot, but quickly cooled down. The announcers were flat because what they were calling was flat. Jerry Lawler and Bret Hart did a great job with their match after the show. So once again, we had a match after the show went off the air that was better than anything that we saw, according to Dave Meltzer.
Yep.
That's pretty much it for the wrap up of that event.
All right. Well, I mean, here we are. I forgot to ask at the very beginning, have either of you, or before going into this, had either of you seen this that you remember?
No. And if I would have remembered it, I would have blocked it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen like clips of the Shawn Michaels handing over the belt part, but that's it. I don't think I've watched the event in its entirety until now.
Yeah, same here. This was all new to me, so... All right, well, we are getting close to the end of pay-per-views in 1995. We've got Survivor Series and In Your House 5 left, and that's it for the year. The end of an era, the end of the slog. and I am looking forward to moving forward with you guys.
Definitely looking forward to 96.
Yes, absolutely. And that's it, folks. We are done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us, and if you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can find us on every major social media and podcast subscription platform by searching up the handle Wrasslin Raw. That's WRASSLINRAW. While you're there, don't forget to click subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and let your friends know about the fastest growing wrestling podcast in the world. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to take a look at the Raw that aired on October 23rd, 1995, with matches featuring Duke the Dumpster Droese, Avatar, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.